when you present your business case to the relevant authorities, so in this case, those could be senior management, basically the people are supposed to approve it, right? These guys or these persons have a criteria that they're going to use to approve that business case, which means by understanding those criteria, okay, by understanding the things that they're going to be looking out for, you can easily develop a business case that will have higher chances of being approved, which is why in this case you're going to look at examples of criteria typically applied in the development of a business case. Now, before we continue, I just want to quickly remind you that every week, okay, at least twice a week, every week, I do put out newsletters. I do send out emails that are either in the form of summary notes, videos, okay, practice questions and answers that are designed to help you improve on your studies, if it is studies, pass exams and all that stuff, right? Also, there are others that are business related that are just designed to help you start your procurement related business. Or if you're already having one, how to effectively, things that you need to look at to make sure that things run effectively. So the thing is, just check out the description of this video and you can sign up and to get access to all these. I mean, for example, this particular video that you're watching, right? There's another version of it. Okay, there was first one. This is like a third one, right? So how do you know if such videos are out? I mean, rather than relying on the notification and all that, in that email, okay, the mail list, we send you all that information. Tell you, yeah, there's a new video summary. It's out. Here's a thing. PDF notes, like summaries that, these video summaries, you can access them from there. So it's not just boring emails. Well, it depends whether you like reading or not. But there's the newsletter, okay, which contains the actual, summary notes. It could contain practice exercises. It could contain links to videos. It could contain my online courses, all that stuff, right? So make sure you subscribe and let's continue with the lesson. And to start us off, okay, the first thing that you need to understand in this case is cost and benefits. It is important, okay, to not only show, it is important to highlight the benefits of your case, okay, of your business case. In private sector, this might include improved profitability, improved return on investment for shareholders, and shorter lead times. And some of those benefits could be reflected in financial terms. See, that's a good thing about that, right? For example, talking about X percentage return on your investment, which is this amount, which means in this given time frame, you're going to have that much. You see, you can do that in financial terms. In public sector, however, benefits may typically include improved service for taxpayers, improved value for money, or cost saving. And yes, some of those things could be difficult to quantify in financial terms. So not everything is just going to come down to financial numbers. That is something that you need to remember. Once the benefits of a project or procurement activity has been outlined, the business case should consider the cost associated with the project activity and all of the benefits. See, the idea is simple, okay? When you're talking about cost and benefit, you're simply saying, look, here are the costs, all right? If the costs outweigh the benefits, so the costs are heavier than the benefits, then obviously that project is going to be rejected. For the most part, it will be rejected unless there is a very, very good reason why they're choosing to ignore the costs. Of course, if the benefits outweigh the costs, okay, so in this case, the benefits are better than the cost, then for the most part, they're going to go with that project. See, typically that's how that happens. So the first criteria that we're talking about here is cost and benefits. The second thing is options. Just because you've told the relevant parties, okay, the parties that you're presenting your business case to, of the costs and the benefits associated with that particular idea that you have in procurement or that particular project that you have, you still need to give them options, okay? It's not one of those scenarios where you show up and say, look, I want us to buy this particular thing. Like, yeah, what if you don't buy it? What if you go with the other? No, are there any others in the market? So that is the reason why options are important. In particular, does the business case show a number of options we generated before selecting the best one? And when you're talking about generating these options, okay, you can form a team. So these are things like brainstorming come in. You can just have a team, all right, whose job is to brainstorm some of the options that are available. And sometimes you realize that those options can actually end up affecting your business case and you end up changing it. So, but the point here is, here's what you want them to pick on. And so you're giving them other options. And we are simply saying brainstorming, the team can help with that. Hybrid strategies can be developed by comparing features of existing strategies and combining them with new ones. When you're doing your brainstorming, or now having these brainstorming sessions, the thing you have to factor in here are the sort of interventions that can either work against you or for you. And so in this case, we have 6 interventions that you need to pay attention to. You're talking about market intervention. This is where you look at things like make or buy, okay? In the market that you are in. So just, should we offer a tender or something? No, look, can you make this thing? Or should we buy it? All right. So those are some of the things that you have to factor in there. Number 2, technical intervention. This includes rationalizing or simplifying specifications, innovate technologies, and creating intellectual property rights. Cost structure interventions. So techniques such as Lean, okay, Six Sigma, total cost of ownership, value analysis, and value engineering can be employed. Work process intervention, that's another one. In this case, okay, so in this intervention, an organization attempts to create an advantage that delivers a breakthrough in cost or service by looking at external collaborative process with suppliers, such as joint planning. Okay, supplier relationship intervention, which involves leveraging or changing relationship with suppliers to give better access to supplier capabilities or to ensure excellent supplier performance. You also have supply chain interventions. This requires the organization to design the right supply chain by either getting rid of unnecessary intermediaries, also called eliminating the middleman, or outsourcing to gain expertise or scale. So that's the thing, all right? Those are 2 criteria. First of all, we've just talked about there. There is the cost and benefit, and then there is the option, right? Again, look, as you're continuing with this thing, at any point, if you have a question, you're supposed to ask. So you don't just sit there frustrated with your question. Now let's move on. Cost benefit analysis for each option is something else that you also need to factor in. And don't confuse showing cost and benefit with cost benefit analysis. It's not really the same thing. Remember, some strategies can be considered for reasons other than commercial ones. And this is important because not everything that you're going to be selecting is going to be based on how much profit you can make or how much money you can generate. In public sector, for example, there are some choices that are made, okay, in government, the government of your country. Think about it, right? I mean, ignoring the pointless politicians, but there are some choices that are going to be made that are not entirely based on, say, commercial purpose. They're just political. It's like, we are appointing this person here. Why? Because we need a women's rep, or we need a youth representative, or a representative of whatever. And those choices have nothing to do with, it's just political. So that's the thing, okay? So when you talk about cost benefit, you don't automatically have to think, yeah, we're talking about commercial reasons. Not necessarily the case, okay? The value of the cost benefit analysis is to show the financial consequence of the whole choice made. In its simplest form, a cost benefit analysis is carried out by adding all the financial benefits of the option and subtracting all of the costs associated with it. And there are techniques that are going to help you, okay? Payback period is an example of such. And of course, in this case, we are actually looking at this thing from a commercial perspective. That's the thing. I mean, this is not governance, tutorial or something. So anyway, payback period, how does that work in practice? Let's talk about that, or rather, let's look at that, okay? So a manufacturing business is thinking of investing in a new machinery that will increase its output. The cost of the machinery is $4 million. The business believes it will increase output by 13,000 units each year. The profit made on each unit is $150. There will be one-off cost of $200,000 to install the machinery, calibrate it, and retain the workforce. What is the payback period for this investment? What exactly are we being asked here? Okay, we're just being asked, look, in as much as you're going to invest that money on that particular machinery, right? When are we going to get our money back, right? the money that we've just invested in that machine, how long will it take us to get it back? That is, how long will it take for that thing to pay us back? That's the payback period. I mean, it's that easy, all right? You don't have to complicate it. So anyway, let's look at that. Here's how that works out. So step one, how much have we invested in this? That is what we need to figure out. So the cost of the machinery is 4 million. Installation cost, 200,000. So the total investment will be 4 plus 200,000, which gives us 4.2 million. So 4 million and $4,200,000, right? Step two, calculate how much we are making from these. So now we are told that that machine will be capable of producing, 13,000 units in terms of profit, right? So multiply that by 150 and we get 1,950,000. So now we know how much it cost us to have that machine. We also know how much we are going to generate in terms of profit from that machine. So then the question becomes figuring out, okay, how long we are going to be paid back. How long are we going to get our money back? And that means payback period is equals to total investment divided by the annual profit. So in this case, 4,200,000 divided by 1,950,000, in which case 2 years, okay, 2.15 years, or in this case 2 years and about 2 months. That is the time it will take us to recover our money. So the choice is always, I mean, look, what if you have, remember we said generate options, right? Your business case. That's the whole point, right? You came up with a business case and you gave them options. And so let's assume there are like 3 of these things. Buy this machine, buy that one, do that or do that. So there are 3 options, right? So when you do the payback period, using that as an example, right? Then it means you're going to go with the one that gives us our money faster. The options that will help us to generate, or the option that will give us back the money in the shortest time. So if there is one that goes for 3 years, and there is this one that goes for 2 years and 2 months, then obviously we go for the one that gives us our money back in 2 years and 2 months. That's the idea behind this, holding all factors constant. So when looking at cost, you have to remember that some costs may not be so obvious at the start. For example, the impact on health and safety, the impact on the organization's reputation, environmental cost. These are things which the payback period will pretty much not talk about. And that is the reason why we said, look, not everything that you're going to be doing, or rather not every cost you're going to be arriving at is going to be something you just figure out commercially. So that's that, okay? There is like the reputation, right? Like now we have these ESG things. So you might say, look, this one will give us money faster. But then there is the environment angle to look at. Or if it is a public sector thing, there is that political class or those people who have voted for whatever. There are those choices that say the government has to make if it's procurement from a government's point of view. So all these things sort of come in when you're trying to figure out the cost benefit analysis. Look, this is not listing the cost and listing the benefit. This is analyzing the costs versus the benefits and deciding which one are we going for. So that option has to be there in your business case. And, again, if you have any question, you ask. Now let's talk about competitors analysis. You see, that's another thing that you have to factor in when you are when you're developing your business case. And yes, when you're presenting it as well. It is useful to include competitors analysis in the development of a business case in order to gain a wider understanding of the external market, identify opportunities for competitive advantage, and establish methods of best practice. And look, benchmarking is one of those things that will help you when you are doing your competitors analysis, because it's just a question of this is what you look like, this is what these people look like, and we want to be better than them, or we want to have the best solution, or we want. So that's the thing, okay? Benchmarking is a big deal. So benchmarking is a strategic analytical process of continuously measuring an organization's product, service, and practices against a recognized leader in the studied area. There are 4 ways, okay? There are 4 ways you can go about this. The first one is internal or departmental benchmarking, where a business process is compared to similar processes in the same organization. And an example here could be, think about a hospital, right? So a hospital could just benchmark with another hospital or a store. Like if you have a chain of stores, right? And there is one that is performing well. So you might look at these others that aren't performing and then benchmark them with the one that is performing well. If you're dealing with like retails or whatever it is, There are benefits and challenges associated with these, and the benefits will include: one, it is a cost-effective form of benchmarking. It is relatively easy to do, low cost to carry out. It is relatively fast compared to other types of benchmarking. It is easy to transfer the lesson learned. And just because there is a benefit doesn't mean that there aren't challenges. And the challenges in this case will include: it provides limited opportunity for growth. There may be internal bias. It can also create an unhealthy atmosphere of competitiveness. Now, the second one is competitive benchmarking. Okay, and in this case, a product, service, or process is benchmarked against or a direct competitor. And what are the benefits of doing this? Like, we are just benchmarking what product. So we could be looking at this particular product. That's Samsung, right? So you could be looking at this one and then benchmarking it against like a direct, competitor. So who will that be in terms of television? So it could be, I don't know, who's competing with Samsung? You figure that one out. Anyway, that's the thing, right? And the benefits of doing this will include: it gives a better understanding of a competitor. It could be a basis for potential partnership with the competitor. It is a useful basis for planning and setting goals. It may provide a comparison with an organization facing similar regulatory issues. Yes, because look, if you are, I don't know, like if you're in the energy sector, and then there are all these rules, all these regulations, and then you're benchmarking yourself against another company in the energy sector. And so the idea is, how are they even navigating those rules or those regulations? And then you understand, so this is what they're doing. Let's also do that, but in a better way. Now, the challenges of doing these, okay? Like if you're benchmarking against your competitors, the challenges could be: number one, it may be limited if there are intellectual property issues, okay? It can also be perceived as a threat by either or both organizations. Now, the other one is functional benchmarking, where similar or identical practices are compared with those of an organization outside the immediate industry sector. For instance, the government, say, tax collection agencies, right? Or the revenue collection, whatever, whichever way you call it in your country, the people collect tax, all right? So those guys. So they could be benchmarking against some private sector company that actually collects debts, because the principle is more or less the same, right? I mean, when the government says you made this money and you want part of it, they're saying you owe them money. So they're basically just collecting on a debt, except it's not really some money. Anyway, look. So they could benchmark themselves against a company that probably just calls people to say, hey, you owe us this much and now you need to pay. So that could be that. Now, the benefits here: it provides industry trend information. Okay, improvement rates are generally faster. But the challenge here could be the difference in, say, the culture of these two organizations. That can actually present a challenge. Now, the next one is generic benchmarking, where you look at unrelated business process or functions in an organization regardless of the industry. So our focus here will be the process. We're just interested in the process. We're not even interested in the industry. So you're benchmarking one process with another process, a similar process in another company, even though that company doesn't even belong in the same industry we are in. For example, an airport might benchmark a grocery outlet's barcode system in order to track luggage. So they're like, look, if they're going to track the way these groceries or these whatever it is that is working within that, we can use the same process to track bags and whatever luggage we have in the airport. So that's because the system is the idea or the concept is the same. It just so happened that it's being implemented in a different industry. So what are the benefits associated with doing that? For starters, it's a non-competitive and so a non-threatening process. It provides a broader perspective on a process and also it fosters innovation. But there are challenges. So in this case, the challenges could be it takes a long time to plan. It can be difficult to identify the best organization to work with. That's the thing with the competitors analysis. It mostly just comes down to how good you are at identifying these people who are competitive or processes that are competing against yours. So it doesn't have to be a company. Remember, sometimes you're not just competing as a company. Sometimes you are two different companies using the same process, and so the competition is in the process, or at least, you get the point, right? So, for instance, it could be a human resource management system, okay? And your industry, you're in the mining sector, but then you're benchmarking against another human resource management system that is being used in, say, a manufacturing company. So the key thing here is the HRM system. That's the thing, all right? So you talk about competitors analysis. It's not like we just need to work with exactly the same company that is pretty much competing against us. So it doesn't really work that way. Anyway, look, if you have a question, ask. Now let's move on. Alignment with organization goal. That's another criteria that your business case has to, meet. Because the question is always going to be, you have this nice idea or you have this nice project. But how exactly does it go hand in hand with whatever the organization is aiming at, our strategy, our vision, all that stuff? For example, if one of the key organizational drivers is sustainable procurement, a procurement professional developing a business case would need to consider sustainability factors at every stage of the proposal. And in this case, the sustainability factors could be things like use of technology throughout the project to minimize paper transaction, procurement of raw materials, sustainability practices of suppliers, location of suppliers, logistical operations around movement of goods, end of life options for assets or materials to be procured. All those things, you're going to have to look at them in terms of how exactly do they, advocate for sustainability in the process. And it's not just that, okay? You also have to look at risks. So risk assessment come in. And look, with risks, we're just talking about identifying that particular thing, the risk, and then looking at it in terms of the probability of the thing occurring. And if in fact it does occur, what will the impact look like? And so with that, you can have things that are, high in terms of risks, okay, medium, or even low. So you are looking at them that way in terms of what are the chances of this thing occurring, and if it does in fact occur, what's the impact to the organization? And again, remember, with risks assessment or risk analysis, it will always just come down to, after doing all that, it will still come down to your risk appetite as an organization, okay? The degree to which the organization can accept or reject that risk depending on the plan they have. So anyway, that is something that you have to factor in, okay, as part of the criteria that will be used to either approve or disapprove your business case. The other one is stakeholders requirements, and that is important. Look, who are stakeholders? These are people who may or may not, okay? Basically, people who may be affected by whatever it is that you're doing, which means it's not may or may not, okay? These are people who are actually going to be or may be affected by the choices the organization take. So they could be directly affected, they could be indirectly affected. So it could be people like the employees, it could be government agencies who don't really care so much about what you're doing. But if that thing is, touching on some regulation that they are against, then they'll step in and affect the choices that organization has made. So that's the thing with stakeholders. They may or may not be interested in the organization, but their decisions may affect the way the organization operates. And the organization decisions may also affect those people's reaction in terms of what we're talking about. So identify them. It could be even the finance team, okay? The finance team, are they aiming at saving money, cutting costs, while you are interested in buying something? There is that, okay? The marketing team. So figure out, in terms of whatever you're doing, I have no idea what your business case is going to be all about, but whatever the business case is going to be about, right? Just figure out which people could, okay, be potentially affected by this, or could, again, the reverse, affect this, and those people become your stakeholders. And then the question is, what do they want, or what do they have in mind? All right. And another criteria will be timescales and implementation plans. So as far as the parties are concerned, showing up there and then saying, this is what I want us to do, and this is what it will look like, these are the options, these are the costs, these are the benefits, this is the cost benefit analysis, all that stuff. You still need to show that you actually have a plan for execution, where we are going to do this on this day, and this is how it's going to work. So with timescales and all this planning, there are a number of things you have to factor in. For example, have roles and responsibilities been allocated and agreed on? Is there a communication strategy that delivers the right message in the right medium to the right people? Is there a change management strategy? Okay, so if something happens, like the project manager goes away, do you have a plan for replacing that person? Right? Or it's just one of those situations where if that happens, we are stuck. You assume they were never going to quit, and then they just realize, this is not worth it. Okay, going out, or I'm getting another job. So is there a plan for such? Has the specification been agreed? Has the procurement route been agreed? Okay. Has sufficient time been allowed for writing the tender documents? Has sufficient time been allowed for managing the tender process? I mean, all this stuff. Okay. So the point here is your plan will have to factor in all these things that the responsible parties may likely to ask questions about. So look, the idea is just for you to understand that when it comes to business case, there are a number of criteria that can be used to approve a business case or actually to reject it. And so by knowing that, okay, you can modify your business case such that it shows all these things that the responsible parties are likely to be looking for. Right. So if there is any question, let me know. Okay. See you in the next video.